Hey everybody, this is the Building a Basic Website from Scratch tutorial, and today we're going to be looking at part 2, setting up a project. Now that you've successfully cloned or initialized a project, you can build it out a little bit, get a local server running, and see what your early project is going to look like. Before we do that, make sure you have Node installed and any other particulars specific to your particular bootcamp. Be sure to check out the links in the slide deck for more details. Also, a little bit more about package.json before we get started. It's something you'll see a lot of, and it's fairly straightforward conceptually, but it's often easily overlooked. I wanted to remind students that the package.json is essentially a blueprint or construction manager type file that manages the dependencies, internal tools, scripts, which are specific commands, or connections and functionality between certain files. You'll use code to create the output of the visual web page when you're programming, and you'll manipulate its UI and functionality using HTML and CSS, as well as other languages. But the package JSON itself is part of the regulatory scaffolding that controls that project itself. Take a look at this example. Here's an example of all your files, very basic project files, how they're going to look like without your package JSON. And with your package JSON, they all have instructions. They all have connections to each other. They know what to do. They know how to function, and everything should be golden. There's obviously a lot more involved here than just the package JSON, but that gives you a sense of what you're looking at. And here is another example of what that looks like: a very basic package JSON and a more elaborate package JSON. As you'll see, there's different parts of that. Be sure to take a look at yourself. So we're going to start with a few commands to get things going. We're going to want to create a basic package JSON. We're going to want to create an index.html file, and we're going to want to install Light Server. So let's do that now. I'm going to be taking a look at the project that we were working on previously from part 1, and I'm going to run the first command. So that's going to be now that that's complete, you can see that we have a package.json and an index.html file, as well as a node modules file there. And we can go to the next step. The next thing we're going to want to do is make a few updates to the package.json. We're going to want to direct the main project being looked at to be your index.html file. We're going to want to add some language so we can actually start Light Server. And then we're going to want to populate that HTML document with some actual HTML. Then we're going to want to run npm start. Let's do it. We're going to change index.js to index.html. We're going to add that start script. Be sure to add the comma. We're going to put start Light Server. That should be it. So now what we can do is put an exclamation point and an Emmet abbreviation will come up. You can hit enter, and that'll give you some template HTML to work with a head and body. And we're going to just add an H1 here and just say hello world. And then we're going to run an npm start, and that is going to pull up a web browser. And now you've got a website. It's a very minimalistic website, but you are running something locally, and any changes now that you put in HTML or CSS should appear automatically with Live Server. So way to go. Now, with that being said, let's move on to the next step so we can fill that out a little more. So we're going to add some more HTML. In the slide deck, I give you some challenges to work on. So it's not just a copy and paste exercise. So we're just going to copy and paste this time here. And the first thing we're going to do is add to body. And we're going to check to see what that looks like. You see, now we've got some more text. So next step is to add some CSS. So this step is a little bit more involved. You have the basic HTML first, so you can add some CSS. It's not so simple as adding a new document and then adding CSS language to create the styling. The first thing we need to do is actually make a connection. So you see here in step 1, there's actually a link that needs to be added to the head of your HTML document, your index.html document. So we're going to do that first. This is just linking what the style sheet that you're going to make to the index.html document. So the next step we're going to take from here is adding styles.css document. I'm just going to use this little icon here. We're going to do styles.css, and there we go. We got our CSS document, and that's it. So on to the next step, which is going to be working on that CSS document. Again, we've got some challenges here in the slide deck, but I'm just going to copy and paste what we have there. I'm going to include it in the styles.css document, and then we're going to take a look at our page, and look at that. We've got a basic HTML and CSS website. It looks great. And with that being said, that's it for setting up a boilerplate for your project, getting the bare necessities you need to get some HTML and CSS up and running. The next step will be updating and saving your changes and pushing them to GitHub. So I'll see you in the next one.